In today's video, I'm going to show you one of my favorite new resources that I discovered during the past school year and that I'm going to continue using in the next school year. Let's take a look at the writing resources from Lithouse Learning. First of all, if you're new, my name's Kaela. I'm a homeschool mom to 3 girls. I'm currently homeschooling my 2 older girls. We're getting ready to start 4th grade and 1st grade, and what will be our 6th year of homeschooling, which is a little bit crazy for me to wrap my head around. I'm also a homeschool graduate myself, and I love to share resources, curricula, planning, and just some of the day-to-day homeschool mama life around here with you guys. We are a family of faith, but we use mostly secular resources in our homeschool, and that's what I tend to share more of on this channel. So if any of that sounds like your vibe, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and turn notifications on. Okay guys, so let's talk about Lithouse Learning. So Lithouse Learning is the brainchild of Bronwyn Blodgett. I really hope that I'm saying her name correctly. Bronwyn actually has experience both as a public educator, as a teacher, and as a homeschool mom of 3. And although I have not met her personally, just reading the About section on Lithouse Learning's website, I felt like her and I were sort of kindred spirits in a lot of ways, because she is all about real practical curricula that works, that does a job for us. Not necessarily the resources that have a lot of fluff, not necessarily the resources that make for a beautiful Instagram picture, but resources that are actually going to help you as a parent with your child get from point A to point B. In that About section, Bronwyn describes how she really wanted good literature to be one of the foundation elements of her homeschool with her kids, and I feel the same way. She also talks about how when she went to go look at lit-based curricula, secular literature-based curricula, she felt sort of underwhelmed. I have had that same exact experience. Not because there aren't really beautiful literature-based curriculum options. There are. But when it comes to using those resources as your main source of instruction, specifically for writing and composition, that's where I personally started to feel like I was missing something. And clearly Bronwyn felt the same way. Her last point that she shares, and what really becomes the impetus for her creating Lithouse Learning, is that she discovers the writing revolution. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the writing revolution, I would highly recommend that you look into that before you start looking at any resources from Lithouse Learning, because Bronwyn has really based all of her resources off of the methods that are taught in the Writing Revolution. The Writing Revolution is not a curriculum. It is a book that was actually written for public school teachers, for educators, and it was offering a plan, a map, a framework for teaching students how to write, from basic sentences all the way to more advanced academic writing. I will go ahead and put a link for 2 different versions of the Writing Revolution in my description box. There is the newer print version that is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. That was actually the first version that I purchased and read, and Bronwyn and I both had a similar experience where when we read that book, it really opened our eyes and made us realize how we want to teach our kids how to write. But I'm also going to link a second version that I have come across more recently, and this version is actually free in the public domain online. It's the original older version of the Writing Revolution. It's only available in PDF, so you're either going to have to read it digitally or print it yourself. But there is a huge benefit besides the fact that it's free. The original version actually has checklists and worksheets built in, and it just does a better job of clarifying how to actually implement the writing methods in your homeschool or in your classroom. It's a lot more user-friendly. Whereas the newer version, I read it and I was like, I love this. This sounds amazing. but I still don't exactly know where to start and how to do it. So if you've never read The Writing Revolution, or if you've only read the newer version that is currently in print, definitely check out the free version that's in the public domain and see if that helps you decide if these methods might be right for you and your kids. So back to Lithouse learning. Bronwyn discovers the writing revolution. She falls in love with these methods for teaching children how to write. And since she can't find a secular homeschool curriculum that is using methods from the writing revolution, she decided to create it. There are two main offerings from Lithouse Learning at this point in time. The first is the history writing workbooks. There are three of those because they are divided by time period. So she has one for ancient times, one for medieval times, and one for early modern history. The second resource available from Lithouse Learning are Bronwyn's novel studies. These are designed to accompany particular novels or chapter books that you and your child might be reading together. Perhaps you're doing it as a family read aloud, or perhaps this book is an assigned reader for your child. She currently offers her novel studies in level 0, level 1, level 2, and level 3. The level 0 novel studies are going to be for your very young, early elementary kiddos from kindergarten to 2nd grade. The level 1 novel studies are going to have activities geared more towards 2nd to 5th grade. The level 2 novel studies are for 3rd to 6th grade, and the level 3 novel studies are for grades 5 to 8. If you want to see what specific writing skills each level of the novel studies is going to be teaching, Bronwyn has a complete scope and sequence for all the resources that she's created thus far. Generally, the level 1 novel studies are going to be working at the sentence level, whereas the level 2 novel studies are going to be working at the paragraph level. So in our homeschool so far, we have used the Ancient History Writing Workbook from Lithouse Learning, and we've also done one of her level 1 novel studies. I've only used these resources with my oldest daughter during her 3rd grade year and now going into her 4th grade year. My middle daughter is still too young for this level of composition and writing, but I have occasionally given her one of the easier assignments. So far, I have really liked everything that we've tried from Lithouse Learning. I can see that these writing activities do challenge my older daughter. I personally think that that is a good thing. She's not overly challenged to the point where she's getting frustrated. It's just the right level of difficulty to push her that much more. And as she's gone through these activities, I can really see improvement just in her overall understanding of correct grammar, correct syntax, and also in her ability to compose sentences and expand sentences. So for us, these resources are really working out wonderfully, and I am looking forward to using more from Lithouse Learning in the future. So now let me actually show you these resources so that you can see if they might be a good fit for your family. So first, let's look at the World History Writing Workbooks. And the one that we've been using is the ancient history one, so that's the one I have to show you guys. The resources from Lithouse Learning are all digital PDF resources, so you won't be getting a hard copy or anything physical in the mail. You're going to be downloading these files, and then it will be up to you how you'd like to use them. You will get a teacher's guide PDF, a student workbook PDF, a brief appendix that's a few pages. You'll get a couple of anchor chart type pages that are going to go over conjunctions and transition words, abbreviations, note taking, that type of thing. And then my favorite part is you're going to get a correlation table. As you can see when you look at the table of contents from the teacher's guide here, you're going topically by civilization. So whether you're learning about the Persian Empire or ancient Egypt or ancient Greece, you can kind of go through and see where those sections start. And then you can go over to your correlation table and see how those sections might line up with a few of the most popular secular curricula and spines for world history. So we have HQ, which stands for History Quest. We have Story of the World. We have Curiosity Chronicles, and then a couple of encyclopedias. So the Usborne Encyclopedia of World History and also the Kingfisher History Encyclopedia. So then you can easily go through and let's say that, like me, you're using History Quest Early Times. You can look at what chapter you're going to be studying in History Quest and easily find the writing activities and pages that are going to correspond really well to that chapter and that unit. So looking at the teacher's guide, we already took a little peek at the table of contents. Immediately after the table of contents, we have a couple of sequence progression options. So she kind of goes over what level of these you might be looking at depending on your child's grade or age level. And then she also gives you 5 options for studying world history chronologically if that is something that you and your family are trying to do, how that might look depending on what grade you start in. The next page gives you a quick summary of how to use the writing workbook. And then we jump right into our activity answer key. So the teacher's guide literally has every single page that is in the student activity guide, except in the teacher's guide, the answers are included and they are shown in red. For ancient history, there are 57 writing activities included. You definitely should not feel pressured to do every single one of these. In fact, some of them might not even be applicable to the particular curriculum or unit of history that you are using. But I like having a lot of options, and so I really appreciate that she's included so much in here. The entire rest of your teacher's guide is going to just be your answer key pages. If you were to print this, if you're a paper person and you want to have a hard copy of it, maybe you want to spiral bind it or put it in a teacher's binder, I would suggest printing the teacher's guide and then also printing your correlations, your conjunction and transition word anchor charts, and the appendix pages. Go ahead and print all of those together and have them in one place if you're not going to be using this digitally. Personally, I reference the appendix and the conjunctions and transition words pretty often as I'm using this, so I like having them printed alongside the teacher's guide. All right, let's take a closer look at these writing activities as we look at the student writing workbook. So we have the same table of contents to start, and then we jump right into the activities. There is no fluff here. We are getting right to the nitty-gritty. Here's an example of an activity that you're going to see frequently with Lithouse learning. Again, all of these activities are taught in the Writing Revolution. So this activity is fragment or sentence, and this is actually one of the activities that my younger daughter, kindergartner, first grade level, will do with us. She actually really likes marking these sentences with either S for complete sentence or F for fragment. She thinks it's really fun. I love that she's able to do a little bit of reading and writing that is on topic with what we are learning in our family history lessons. Another example is combining 2 sentences with the word and. Here's an activity for practicing subordinating conjunctions. So we have a blank space at the start. We have a word bank with our conjunctions, and your child can decide which one fits each sentence best. Here's another writing activity that you're going to see frequently. That is the somebody wanted but so then writing model. This framework really helps to build summarization skills. This is an example of an activity that is, in my opinion and in my older daughter's opinion, one of the most challenging activities that you will encounter, at least for level 1. It's asking your child to complete these sentences just based off of the information that they learned. If you have a reluctant writer or a kiddo who has difficulty putting their thoughts into words, this is going to be a challenge for them. What I sometimes do when my child is feeling really challenged by these types of activities is I will look at the teacher's guide to see the completed sentence all filled in, just to kind of see the direction that I can gently nudge my daughter in. And so far, that has worked pretty well for us. Here's another activity for summary sentences. So we have who, what, when, where, why, and how. The idea here is that your child is going to take very brief notes to answer each of those questions and then use those notes to build their summary sentence. Here's an example of one of my daughter's favorite activities. These are scrambled sentences. So you unscramble the sentences and rewrite them with proper capitalization and punctuation. My daughter loves anything even remotely similar to a puzzle or a game, so she finds these to be extra fun. Now let's look at a novel study from Lithouse Learning. So when you purchase a level 1 novel study from Lithouse Learning, in this case, I bought the novel study to go along with the Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. You'll get a teacher's guide and a student workbook and appendix pages, just like you did with the history writing workbook. Additionally, you also get some schedule options. So we have a 4-week schedule option, a 3-week schedule option, and a 15-day schedule. So you can decide which of these will work best depending on how long it's going to take you to read the novel. Once you decide which schedule to go with, each day you will have a checklist. So you'll have the chapters that are assigned to read that day in the book, the student activity from the student workbook. Another nice little touch that was included with this novel study is some really pretty printable haiku paper. Really quickly, I will show you the vocabulary and character journal. However, I did not actually print or use these pages that were included. This is what the vocabulary journal looks like. Every page is identical to this. So you have a section where you can write the word, the definition, synonyms for the word, and then compose a sentence using the word. My daughter has a separate vocabulary notebook that we purchased from School Nest that we really like, so I just substituted using that instead of these pages. This is the included character journal. Your child is asked to pick one of the main characters to follow throughout the story. And as you read each chapter of the story, to think about this list of questions regarding the character that they chose. And the point of this character study is to practice note-taking skills and use of abbreviations in our note-taking. So it gives you a few lines per chapter to take your notes on. This is really easy to replicate or substitute in a regular notebook, which is what we did. It also has a section for the epilogue and then a slightly larger section for final thoughts. So now we'll look at the meatier parts of this novel study. This is the teacher's guide. I went ahead and printed this at home in black and white, and I just used a 3-hole punch to keep this in my teacher's binder. For shorter literature units or small unit studies or little printables and things like that, anything with relatively few pages, I like to just keep in one big teacher's binder. And that way, as soon as we're finished using something that's pretty short, we're only going to be using it for a couple of weeks, I can take it out and replace it, no problem. Obviously, if you wanted to get this spiral bound or use a Pro Click or whatever your preferred method for paper is, you could do that. You could also just use this digitally on your iPad. I already showed you that the schedule options were a separate file, but I just went ahead and printed them and included them with my teacher's guide. Here are the table of contents for this novel study. We have a short little blurb about the basis for these methods. It's based on the writing revolution. We have a page on how to use the levels, and we've already kind of gone over which grades and ages work best. Level 1 is for sentences, level 2 is paragraphs, level 3 is essays. Bronwyn recommends that if you're using these novel studies as one of your main core curricula in your homeschool, to do 8 to 12 novel studies per year. And she just gives a little bit more information about making sure that your kid is ready for the particular writing activities in each level. She has a section here on teaching grammar, and she says that these novel studies do not include grammar instruction. You are going to be going over things like capitalization, punctuation, conjunctions. Your child's going to be practicing grammar skills in their writing, But this is not a formal grammar program. You're not going to be learning about nouns or adverbs or anything like that. You're not going to be diagramming sentences. So she has a few suggestions here if you are looking for more structured grammar in your homeschool of the programs that she personally recommends. There's a section here on teaching note-taking and abbreviations. So as you're going through this page, make sure to look at the note-taking, abbreviations, and symbols page that's included with your conjunctions file. She talks about the main character journal activity that's woven throughout the novel study and how to use that. And then here is your vocabulary study. So really just consists of a list of words that are found in the book that you're reading. She doesn't really offer a lot of direction on how to study these or cover these other than just to look up the definitions and basically learn as many or as few of these words as you would like. Next, we have a chapter by chapter discussion. So for each chapter of our novel, we have some discussion questions. Then we go right into the activity pages. Obviously, I have these printed in black and white, but normally the answers are in red. These are all the activities that are in the student book. The only difference is you have the answer key in your teacher's guide. And a lot of the activities are going to look the same as what we saw in the World History Writing Workbook, and that's because they are the same. These are the activities based on the Writing Revolution, but the content that you're covering as you do these activities is going to be different. The final activity in this novel study is to write a book summary, and she offers a simpler, shorter version and a more advanced version as an example. Your child's obviously not going to write this verbatim, word for word, but it just gives you an idea of what these summaries should look like. The last thing in the teacher's guide is a brief page for book club ideas. Some of these are links to specific recipes or activities. So for this page, at least, it might be better to use this digitally. Writing the haikus is one of the activities for the book club, and that's why she included the haiku stationery. She also includes a more in-depth list of discussion questions for your book club or your co-op. These questions are different from the chapter by chapter questions. We were able to use both lists. This is sort of a more concise list that summarizes the whole book and is meant to be asked after you finish the book. And then I went ahead and printed the appendix pages and sort of the instructional pages for myself and just put them right behind the teacher's guide pages. And now looking at the student workbook, we have the same table of contents. And for this particular novel study, there are 15 writing activities in addition to the vocabulary and the character journal options. Okay, so final thoughts. I really feel convinced that the methods from the Writing Revolution work. And I love that Bronwyn has created resources that really do most of the heavy lifting for me. There's a couple caveats though that I want to share. If you are not familiar with the Writing Revolution, if you haven't read it and you don't feel at least some confidence and comfortability with the methods that are taught in that book, it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for you to use the resources from Lithouse Learning. You have to have at least some familiarity with the Writing Revolution to be able to look at these writing activities and even know what is expected of you. But if you're looking for something that's open and go and has very detailed instruction for you, the parent or the teacher, this is not going to be it. The other caveat is this is not a full language arts or a full history curriculum. These resources are designed to be supplements. Even if, like us, you decide to use Lithouse Learning for the history writing workbooks and then also do a few of the novel studies, you're still probably going to have to look for programs for spelling or penmanship, depending on your child's age. You might also need a more explicit explicit full-fledged grammar program. And depending on your kiddo, you might need more for vocabulary or morphology or reading instruction or reading comprehension. All that being said, I think that these resources are priced really fairly. The novel studies are extremely affordable at about $9 a piece. The history writing workbook packages are $35 a piece. But again, in each of those, you are getting your teacher's guide and your student's workbook. And for the world history, more than likely, that's going to last you a whole year, if not longer. As far as the novel studies go, if you're looking for a novel study or a literature-based curriculum that's going to have a lot of arts and crafts or really lovely play activities or any hands-on learning to go along with the story or novel that you're reading, this is not going to include any of that. But if your family is really into the hands-on arts and crafts style learning, you're going to have to either use another program that's going to give you those ideas or come up with them yourself. I am going to be making a video sharing with you guys what my plans are for literature and grammar and all of that good stuff in the upcoming school year. I do think that Lithouse learning will continue to be part of it. I hope that you guys found this video to be informative and helpful. If you did, please consider giving it a big thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, drop them in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.